Hello and welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Clinton James, and I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer over at Water Restoration Marketing. Now, on a recent episode of our podcast, I interviewed Michelle over at Jill's office. They provide answering services tailored specifically for home service businesses, including restoration companies. After our interview, I was invited by their team to participate in a Facebook Live where we talked about 3 essential areas that home service businesses should focus their digital marketing efforts on. We talked about what really delivers results online and effective strategies any home service business can use to increase the number of leads they're getting from the web. So give it a listen. You might be missing out. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, so it looks like we are live. And welcome back, everybody. We have a really exciting episode. We're glad to be back. We've got Clinton James with Water Restoration Marketing, and we love having a marketing genius on our podcast because they always have really great insight and tips on how we can be better at marketing to get in front of clients and just to have our businesses grow. So welcome, Clinton, to our podcast. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Nicole, for having me.
Yeah. And if you would give us a little intro, tell us about your company. How did you start your business in the first place, and what is it that you do?
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is a good story. I've been in emergency services marketing for the better part of 15 years now. I currently work in the water damage restoration space, but that's certainly not where I started. I go back to working with companies that had defective siding, HVAC, and even roofing companies there. But about 7 years ago, we decided to pivot, and now we work exclusively with water restoration companies across the country. So right now, what my agency does is we generate phone calls from homeowners, business owners that are in the middle of some kind of a water damage emergency. The way we generate those calls, traditionally, we run Google ad campaigns specifically for whatever client we're working with in that city or that service area. We currently service probably about 130, 140 restoration companies across the country right now.
Okay, cool.
I love that. You know, probably one of the things I hear the most from home service owners is just everybody wants their phone to ring because that's what brings in the money, right? But
Sure.
it's kind of overwhelming knowing the best places to put their marketing dollars and what kind of organic things work best, what paid things work best, and just that overwhelm of, you know, what do I do first and what do I do next and how does all that work? So I'm really excited to dive into this with you today.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it looks like you've got some visuals for us. You've got some slides. So do you want to go ahead and start going over those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess today, what I really wanted to dive into is really the 3 top places that home service businesses should really be focusing their digital marketing efforts in 2024. Before we get too much into the weeds, I want to talk a little bit about what I don't encourage folks to do. So I'm 44 years old, right? I'm definitely not a young guy in this space, but I see a lot of home service companies that are investing lots and lots of money advertising on social media. Like we're on Facebook right now. It's a great place for people to connect with their friends, their families. Occasionally they'll see an ad that sparks their interest. But since I work specifically in the emergency services space, which is what water restoration is, we tend to kind of encourage them to stay away from running paid ads on social media. Like I said, 44 years old. I don't have a single friend in my phone that I'd call. And if they had water damage, they'd go on Facebook or Instagram to look for a contractor. So whether we like it or not, Google is the only player when it comes to emergency services, and also really the 900-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to all of home services. So Google is really where you need to focus your intent. With that being said, the first place I want to talk about is local service ads. So a lot of people know it as either as LSA or Google Guarantee. A lot of home service businesses are scared away from running local service ads because there is an application process that's involved, right? That Google's going to do a background check, not just on the business owner, but also the business itself. You've got to have your licenses. You've got to have your insurance. You've got to be a legitimate home service business that Google can verify before you can run these ads. Now, these ads are great for me because I look at Google as real estate, right? So when somebody does a search, whether it's on their phone, their computer, their tablet, I want to dominate as much upper level real estate as I can. And those local service ads, Google Guarantee, they show up right at the top. right? So this is Google's first venture into a pay per lead model as opposed to their traditional pay per click model. But the quality of these calls, the intent of the people that click on those ads is always very high. You can dispute calls that you don't feel fall into what you were looking for there. So you really can get great value. It does take a little time to set these up. You can expect a few week process while they go through their due diligence, do your background check out your business. You're going to have to provide them with lots of information there. But once you get Google Guarantee up and running, as long as I literally was just in a mastermind with a group of a bunch of agency owners that work with home service businesses. And there's really 3 R's that you want to pay attention to when you're doing Google local service ads or Google Guarantee. The first is radius, because that impacts when you show up. Are those people physically located in your service area? The second is reputation. So you want to make sure that you're getting plenty of Google business profile, your GBP, 5-star reviews from Google users there. That'll improve the frequency in which you show up at that very top real estate there. And then the final one is responsiveness. So Google actually gives you an interface where you can go in and you can disposition what happened with each one of those calls. You want to move those calls to active. You want to move those calls to booked so that Google knows that you're working those leads diligently and servicing those home service customers there. So that is the number one place. If you're a home service business and you haven't already set up Google Guarantee or local service ads, you should spend the time necessary to go ahead and do so. It's a great investment. You're paying per lead. There's a dispute process in there. And it's probably, when you do the math, it's going to be one of the least costly ways for you to get new business there.
Yeah. Everyone I know that uses local service ads, they wish they could get more leads that way. Like, I want to spend more money on there. How do I spend more money?
Yeah.
And I mean, pointers from what I heard, but tell me what I'm missing here is that you need to be answering your calls, because oh gosh, is it if you go under 70% of calls answered, then your score gets dinged?
So Google hasn't released like exact benchmarks, but you're 100% right. That goes to that responsiveness, right?
Right.
So you need to be answering the phone. So when you take those calls, obviously you want to get whatever information you need to move them through your funnel as they hopefully become customers for you. But you want to disposition all of that data in the local service ads interface there. So yeah, that's super important. Answer the calls. And if you can't answer the calls, find a great answering service like Jill's office to make sure that those calls aren't going to voicemail.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's also really good if you turn on messaging, that you can receive messages through, because they can either call or message you, right, on your Google business profile. Or
so
within the local service ads.
messaging I'd look at on a case-by-case basis, depending on what home service you provide. So we specifically work in the water restoration space. So these are emergency calls. So we wouldn't necessarily encourage too many of our clients to turn messaging on. The other thing that you may not know about messaging is if you turn on messaging, immediately when they send that message to you, Google automatically prompts them to send that exact same message to some of your other competitors there. So even though the price is half of what you'd pay for a phone call, you're already encouraging that prospect to reach out to some other service providers in the area there. So depending on what your home, depending on what your home service is, it may make sense for you to turn messaging off.
And then, I mean, obviously with water restoration, but even in other home services, really you need to be listed as 24/7 that you can take calls, right? Because then you're going to get more of those in.
Yeah, service hours are definitely important. You're only going to show up when you're open for business.
Awesome.
So the next one, in terms of areas that I would encourage home service businesses to focus their efforts right now, is going to be paid ads. Again, it's all about dominating that real estate at the very top of the Google search there. So right underneath your Google Guarantee or local service ads, you're going to see your sponsored ads. Now, I know the first response most people give me is, well, nobody clicks on those. I've got an agency that's been in business for 7 years. We manage millions of dollars in what is PPC ad spend budget for our clients. There are plenty of people, especially those that are in emergency service, like in a need for an emergency service, that are just going to gravitate to the first link that they see at the top of the page there. Now, when it comes to PPC, doesn't matter what home service business you're in, you always want to make sure that you're working with You work with an agency that's got experience, one, with your type of home service business, and two, with in your neck of the woods, in your part of the country there, right? So I do PPC for water restoration companies, and the campaigns that I want run in Florida are significantly different than the campaigns I run in upstate New York or Washington or California or Texas. So as you're vetting a provider to do pay-per-click for you, just make sure that they've got years of experience working with that type of home service business in your part of the country there. But yeah, again, it goes back to dominating the top of that Google real estate there. So PPC can be expensive, but these are very high intent searchers. If they're clicking on that ad, you're driving them to a landing page that you know is going to convert and turn those inquiries into phone calls that hopefully you can turn into site visits and jobs there. So
I love that. And again, kind of a tip is that I've always heard is local service ads. You're pretty safe setting those up on your own, and they kind of just auto run other than you wanting to go in and mark them as booked. But really, when you get into Google paid ads, it's really worth your investment to work with an agency or a professional, because there is such a science and art to it, that really you're going to be throwing money down or flushing money down if you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, I'll be completely honest with it. Setting up a PPC campaign with Google, it's not rocket science. Like, your average person could spend 3 hours on YouTube and figure out how to set up an account. The thing about Google is they make it really easy for you to spend money with them. The other part about Google is they're not in the business of getting you jobs. Google ultimately is in the business of selling you clicks. So every piece of data that they show you when you set up that Google PPC account, it's all geared towards getting you to waste a bunch of money on a bunch of words that may or may not turn into business for you. So you are better served working with an agency, even if it costs you a little something, and making sure that they know what works, what doesn't work, create landing pages that they know are going to turn into your desired result, which hopefully is going to be phone calls that turn into site visits and jobs there. So, and you can waste a lot of money on PPC if you don't know what you're doing. So, save yourself the learning curve, find a reputable agency. If you're not in the water restoration space, you can still reach out to my team. We've got enough resources where we can point you in the direction of an agency that can help you with paid ads.
I mean, and not to pivot too far, but if they're not in restoration and they are trying to find a good agency, what are some red flags to watch out for in knowing who not to work with?
One is just experience, right? How many clients do they work with specifically in your home service niche there? You might want to reach out if they can't provide references for other companies in that same space that they are currently doing business with. That's always a red flag. Right. The other thing is when you talk to them, do they know the ins and outs? Do they know the terminology that you use in your business? Because let's face it, any 19-year-old with a computer in his mom's basement can set up a digital marketing agency nowadays. But do they speak your language? Do they understand what your ideal customer is doing online? Do they understand what you're looking for out of a customer there? And if you can find somebody that has that experience and kind of a track record of delivering good results consistently for folks that are in your space, that's really who you should be working with. All right. So the next one that I guess we'll talk about is finally going to be Google Business Profile. So GBP. This can be a cash cow for you, because unlike the previous two that we talked about, you're not paying per call and you're not paying per click, right? So if I'm a home service business and I haven't set up a Google Business Profile already, you're way behind the 8 ball. That's something that you need to do immediately. When you're done watching this stream today, you need to go on and set up a Google Business Profile. This is that map pack, right? Where you see a map and you see the first 3 businesses that relate to that search term there. So getting a Google Business Profile not only set up, but optimized so that you have an opportunity to show up in that first 3 ranking. They say somewhere between 65 and 70% for home services. All the search traffic comes through that Google map. People see the listings. They know that they're real businesses. They most likely have an address. They know they're in their service area, and they can even see reviews right there from other people in the community that have done business with them. So Google Business Profile is definitely a place you need to basically really be putting a lot of intent and effort into building out that for your home service business.
And as far as getting on the top of the map pack, I mean, do you know any of the numbers of how much of it is based off reviews versus, how much you're uploading
Again,
updates and
yeah,
photos.
Google will never spill the secrets to their algorithm, right? In terms of exactly how they rank businesses there. But again, the same rules apply to local service ads as your Google business profile. The first thing that you want to pay attention to is proximity, right? Because if your physical location for your home service business is 20 or 30 miles away from your ideal target service area, no matter what you do, it's going to be really hard for you to rank in that map pack or get one of those top 3 listings, because your proximity to that person doing the search is weighs really heavily on whether or not you show up when that person's doing a search. The other thing is reputation. So it's great to get reviews on Yelp and Angie's and all these other platforms out there, but the most valuable review for a home service business right now is going to be your Google business profile. Getting verified Google users to go on your Google business profile and give you a review. If you can keep that average star rating above 4.8, that's going to put you in the very top tier of service providers there. So,
Do you know, I've seen a lot of issues in, first off, I have a residential cleaning company.
okay.
And so I'm in a lot of these groups. And I've seen a lot of people comment the past couple months, they had issues with Google verifying their business when they try to set up their page and they're required to submit a video, of their location, and they seem to keep running into a lot of issues. Do you have any solutions for that? Because I've seen it happen a lot recently.
We're fortunate, an agency at our size, we do have some connections for Google representatives there, but Google doesn't make it easy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You're right. They sometimes they want video, sometimes they want signage. There's all kinds of things that they can use to verify that Google business profile. If somebody's having trouble with it and you're working with a digital marketing agency on anything else on the internet, reach out to them, use them as a reference to kind of get you through that verification process there.
Yeah, I've seen their chat actually be pretty helpful.
Mhm.
I still don't understand, and maybe you can explain. When I look at my local service ads, when I look at my company, and it pulls up my local service ad, and compared to my Google business profile, the review number is different.
So there's actually 2 separate review links, right?
Right.
So there's a separate review link specifically for your LSA ads, and then there's
Mhm.
another review link for your GBP. Now, I've heard mixed messages about this, but what I kind of believe to be true is you want to be one talks to the other. Google business profile talks to LSA. LSA doesn't necessarily talk to your Google business profile. So if it's me and I'm encouraging my clients to write reviews for me, I'm going to encourage them to write them on my Google business profile, because I know that Google's algorithm that determines who actually shows up at the top of the page in Google Guarantee, they're not only looking at those Google verified reviews, but they're also looking at your GBP. So you want to make sure that you're getting credit for those in both places.
Yeah. Yeah, that was always confusing because I don't think we request reviews through our local service ad because we like to manually, do things on the other side of things. And I mean, would you recommend going through Google and requesting any reviews that are hidden to be released on a regular basis? Because I did it recently and I thought maybe there was just a small handful because I had a goal of hitting 100 reviews.
Mhm.
It shot up past 100 out of nowhere. And I didn't realize it was that many that were hidden. It was over 20.
I would literally put it on my calendar every 60 days to make that request there.
Okay.
Right. Because the last thing that you want to do is, and Google is silly. They'll hold up legitimate reviews for a number of reasons there.
Right.
So if you're reaching out, whether it's through that chat or through a Google representative and having them review those, it's great. And you'll even see sometimes that some of your reviews disappear. Google's a funny being there. So I would put it on the calendar once every 2 months, maybe once a quarter, to reach out to them and make sure that you don't have any additional reviews that aren't displaying for whatever reason.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the 3 areas. Again, there's plenty of other stuff that you can do, right? I mean, social media is not a bad thing, right? Social media is a great branding opportunity, especially if you have non-emergency services, whether it's, air duct cleaning or carpet cleaning or painting. It's a great way for you to promote your business. And it's really top of the funnel activity. Right. But when you're in like emergency services, in our case, we have to understand that those people that are looking for that service, they're not going to their Facebook or their Instagram page to find an emergency services contractor there. So get a good understanding of where your target audience is looking for you or not looking for your service, and make sure that you're spending or using your efforts accordingly on that platform. So.
Clinton, can we talk budget for a minute? Let's talk about emergency, like water restoration. So, if as far as how much a company, obviously there's various sizes, but like minimum that you need to invest to make Google Ads actually work, what does that look like? And about what are you paying per click? I'm sure
So
it's
the
very
only
much.
thing the only thing that I can speak to is water restoration because we've been in that space for the last 7 years. So what we see, and the numbers can be dramatic from one part of the country to the other. So I'll just speak to averages. The average click that we see traditionally is probably going to be somewhere between $35 and $50. Now, not every click is going to convert into a call. So our average cost to generate a phone call might be somewhere between $150 and $250, right? So when we bring on a new client, doesn't matter how deep their pockets are or where they are in the country, we traditionally start with about a $2,000 a month ad spend budget. That way, we know over 60 to a 90-day period, we can get that ramped up to where they're hopefully seeing somewhere between 4 to 6 water jobs. And because water jobs are so high margin, that's a great return on investment for them. And then once we are consistently hitting those numbers, our clients traditionally will reach out to us saying, hey, how do we get the phone ringing even more? Let's increase the ad spend budget. Other home services like painting and stuff like that, I don't know what the average cost per click is. I know it's significantly lower than water restoration. Outside of attorneys, I don't know that people that pay very much more per click than restoration companies do. But yeah, I would say if you're in the restoration space, for us, we start at about $2,000, but we also have clients that spend somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000 a month, and they're also seeing a great return on investment. I guess when you're trying to establish a budget, one is you don't want to overspend. If you can't afford to run the ads, you shouldn't be running the ads. I think a fair number is somewhere between 10 to 15% of what you're producing in terms of revenue. And if you have aggressive growth goals and you have some money set aside, maybe you increase that based on what those goals are for the business.
I love that. That's some really good guidelines just to get started with it.
Yeah.
But I love these 3 points because I mean, there's a singular focus here. Really, Google is the cat is where the eyes are, especially with emergency restoration. And hey, here's a couple of things that, or I guess here's one that doesn't cost anything other than your time to set it up, and then a couple
Well,
others that, yeah.
when we talk about Google business profiles, it's not just the time to set it up, right? It's not a set it and forget it platform. You should treat it like
Mhm.
any of your other social media pages. You should be encouraging every client that you work with and you provided a great service to go to that Google business profile and write a review. You should have a person on your team that's going in daily. Any reviews that were posted, good, bad, or ugly, they should be responding to those reviews because Google looks at that as well. You should be putting posts just like you would on your social media page where you're talking about the specific services that you offer and the areas that you service. Pictures are another good one. You should be posting multiple pictures every single month on there. There's an FAQ section that you should be kind of working diligently through. There's just a lot of things that you need to do on an ongoing basis to really make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. That's why a lot of clients will reach out to us and say, hey, I know you're doing a great job with us on paid ads, but can you help us with our Google business profile? Because a lot of these smaller restoration companies, 2, 3 service vehicles, they don't have a full-time marketing person sitting in the office and doing and monitoring all these platforms and making sure that everything's being done correctly. That's a full-time job. So you may want to look at finding an agency that could help you in that respect too.
So is that one of the things you do? Is you actually will update their Google business profile regularly? Oh, it's like I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, no. It's a service that we've been working on with some of our existing clients for the last almost year. What we wanted to make sure that we had is a really good process. And really be able to deliver some value. So we wanted to be able to do these activities on a regular basis for a handful of clients. We wanted to be able to track the number of calls they were getting before we started these activities, wanted to be able to track their ranking before we started these activities, and then track their ranking every 30, 60, 90 days to see what kind of impact that we were having and how often the phone rings, right? Or how many inquiries they're getting. I think we're finally to the place where we're really, really happy with the results and the impact, where we're also going to be offering that as an additional service here in the next month or two.
Oh, I love that. Jump on that, people, before the slots fill up. Do you use a different phone number typically for Google Business Profile then to
Yeah,
track?
Google Business Profiles will allow you multiple phone numbers. You can have a primary and a secondary phone number so that it matches all the other citations that you have all over the internet. You want to use one number there, but the actual number for calling, you can add a call tracking number. So we use call tracking numbers on all of our campaigns, not just to track volume, but we're an agency that doesn't just care about making the phone ring. We want to make sure that those calls that are coming in are quality calls, quality leads that ultimately are turning into site visits and jobs. So we have a team that goes in. We're actually in the process of training AI to read the transcriptions of those calls so that we make sure that we're not just getting the phone to ring, but we're getting you the right type of calls that are ultimately returning into work for your business.
I love that, because that's an often complaint that I hear, of frustrations people have with their marketing agency is they're just so focused on, look, this is how many clicks you got. This is how many calls that came in. I got you the stuff. It's your sales team and your process. That's the problem. But which obviously that is part of the equation. But I love that you do take it a step further to make sure they're quality. That's huge.
I mean, for us, the only way we've been able to stay in business this long is anybody can make the phone ring. You get phone calls from people that are looking for jobs, phone calls from other vendors trying to sell you their products or services there. Those aren't the kind of calls that we're trying to generate. So it's important for us, just from a business standpoint, to listen to the calls to figure out what we can do better to consistently increase that quality.
That's awesome. And Clinton, if someone does want to learn more about your services or how to work with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can visit our website. It's waterrestorationmarketing.net. We've got our podcast episodes are on there. We've got a bunch of client testimonials and some case studies. And then if you're interested in setting up a call with myself or our team, there's a form you can fill out there, and one of our team members will reach out to you pretty quickly and see if ultimately what we do is a good fit. So
Awesome. Before we leave, do you have like one tip? What's one easy tip that a small business owner could take today to implement pretty easily into their business?
For me, it would be start working your Google business profile. If you don't have one already set up, go through the process of setting up one. Hopefully they don't run into the same challenges that your friends have, Nicole, in
Yeah.
terms of getting through the verification process there. But once you're through that verification process, then you need to start treating that Google business profile like any marketing asset, right? You go in there on a consistent basis, you provide content, you're responding to users there. I would say, if you're a smaller home service business and you can't necessarily afford to work with an agency at that point, that's something that you can do that would probably take you 15, 20 minutes a day, maybe 15, 20 minutes a week, really. Just go in there and constantly, because that map pack is like that's invaluable, right?
Right.
Like if you can show up in that map pack for your home services in your service area, that's going to mean a bunch of calls that you're not paying per call, you're not paying per click. And those are some of the best opportunities there.
Yeah. When I first opened too, and I was trying to set up my Google business page and then also local service ads, I think it's been 2.5 years, but I was required to have a certain amount of reviews. And so I did go out asking people for reviews that could speak to my character as a business owner, since we didn't have any services yet. And it was kind of shocking when we got our first couple jobs. We hadn't done any jobs yet. And I'd ask people, oh, how did you hear about us? Or what made you decide to go with us? And they were like, we have great reviews. I'm like, okay. And the first coach that I ever had, that was one of the first things that she told me to do was work on those Google reviews. So I had been working towards getting that 100, and it is hard work. Like, you need to be proactive. I think business owners think they're bugging clients, and you got to get over that. Like, you have to ask and you have to remind, because as a business owner myself, I look for opportunities to give other businesses reviews because I know how important it is.
Sure.
But as a homeowner, as a customer, it's not the first thing I think of. And so you got to ask me. I might look at my text and be like, okay, I'll do it later. And I'm not going to remember. So ask me again, ask me 3 times. And, you got to keep asking, in the right way, and a good sequence. If you have automations is even better.
It's funny you mentioned that. Automation's great, right? The SMS, the text campaigns, and the email follow-ups. But one of the things that I found that's been really the most successful is training your technicians. Whoever is showing up at the end of that project, wrapping up the equipment, they can set up something as simple as a QR code on their phone. And as they're getting ready to leave that job, they can hold out that QR code. They ask the homeowner to scan it on their phone. And most people are already logged into Google on their cell phone. So it'll take them right to your Google business profile, and they can literally write you a review before that technician hits the door. If you can get your technicians, or whatever you refer to them in your business, if you can get them to do that as part of their process, and however you find a way to incentivize them to do that, that is the thing that's going to have the most impact, because you can automate till the cows come home.
Right.
Some people are going to look at their phone. Oh yeah, I should do that. And then they forget about it because they've got 20 other notifications going off on that same cell phone there. But if you can get your technicians or your team members on board with doing that every time they leave a job, you're going to see that number of reviews that you get absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah, that's true. We use Automate Motivate here at Jill's office and at our cleaning company, and we incentivize the technicians to push for a review before they go, and they can get points, and claim different things. One of the most helpful things I heard from someone else too was to build it into your sales process. So when you are selling or when you're scheduling an appointment, to let them know, we're so excited to come out and service your home. We really want to something like strive for your 5-star review and a referral, and start working it into your verbiage from the beginning, so that when you ask, it's already they've already kind of have it in their head that that's what you're shooting for.
I really love that idea. If you're setting the expectation before you even get a work order signed, where, hey, we're not only going to come in and we're going to do a great job for you, but we're going to let you grade us at the end of the process by giving us a review on Google.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if there were some issues during the course of that job, maybe you're not as quick to request that review.
Hold on, let's talk about it first.
But yeah, I love that idea. I might actually steal that one. If you can work that into
I heard it from a couple business owners, and I do love it, because it also, for my GM in the office, the salesperson, and then also the technicians, it's already in their minds that, we need to show up and we need to do a good job to get this review. Otherwise, they might leave a bad review, and nobody wants that. And so, yeah.
When businesses as a whole celebrate review milestones, like if you're a new business and you get your first 20 reviews, right? You should be making a big deal out of that to all of your team members.
Yeah.
When you get 50, you should make a big deal out of it. When you get 100, you should be throwing a pizza party with everybody in the office. Maybe not a pizza party, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
The more that the culture that you create as a business owner with all of your team members, if you're highlighting that as a milestone for the business, it's going to get embedded into everybody's head. They're going to take it more seriously when they're on a job site, when they're on the phone with a client after a job, maybe asking for a review, or there's just a lot of things that you can do with that. So.
Right. Awesome. Michelle, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or Clinton, if you had anything else to share?
We just appreciate so much, Clinton, you joining us today. That I feel like that was super powerful, helpful. 30 minutes of here's how to make your phone ring, which we love.
Thank you. And if you guys have, if there's any restoration companies out there that are watching this feed, that's literally what we do. Is we work specifically with water restoration companies. So if you're interested, you can visit our website, waterrestorationmarketing.net, and me and my team will reach out and see if what we do is a good fit for you. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.